Hey guys, how's it going? It's Barry Aldrich here. How's it hanging, people? Now, the other week, I showed off my Futurama collection, which was not too bad. It wasn't too bad, though, to showing off. But I felt like, you know what? I went back and watched The Simpsons. And then as soon as I started watching The Simpsons then, they announced that they were going to do a second film. And also they were going to go up to season 40. Now, what you think of your opinion is, I'm not here to talk about that today, though, guys. I just wanted to show off the Simpsons DVD collection. I don't mind talking to people sometimes in the comments, but I think for today, I just want to show off the collection of my Simpsons DVDs. Now, bearing in mind, though, I'm going to turn this into a two-part. The reason is there is so many DVDs. Like, I've got so many of the series, I've got so many of the little boxes. Yeah, I will say this. The first 9 seasons I got here, I actually bought them brand new. And then series 10 and 11 and 12 and 13, I got it from an eBay buyer, where season 11 was actually brand new. But, you know, we'll get into that whenever we can do, though, guys. But this is going to be quite a lengthy video anyway on this own. And I haven't received season 14 yet and season 17. I got season 15 and 16, but I will do that in the next video. And I want to include the film in probably the second part, because it's more related to season 18 and 19 when it's released. So, yeah, apologies about this. First of all, we got season 1, and I gotta say, it's a good starting block, though, really, and it's very, very different, though, to the rest of the show. Homer's very much different from the rest of the family and that, and it was all about Bart, though, really, to be honest with you, and it was still a very, very good show in that, you know, overall. I think my favorite episode is probably the one with Sideshow Bob, the introduction of him and that, so this was on there, and it's a really, really cracking episode, though, overall. And it's only just going to be me just talking briefly about how I feel about each of the series and that. And then next up, we have actually got series 2, and yeah, I feel like the humor was starting to come into this show a little bit, but it wasn't quite there at the moment, though, really, and it's very, very hard, though, to say about how it actually goes, but it's still really enjoyable, and I did like a lot of the episodes, though, in general, and that, and I think the humor was actually pretty good in here and that, and yeah, I actually enjoyed season 2, though, really, but I think it was slightly better, and it was also the last series that was show run by Matt Groening, James Brooks, and Sam Simon, who were the original people who developed the show and that. So, yeah, there's a bit of backstage drama, but I'm not here to talk about that, though, in general. Excuse me for a second. And then next up is series 3. Now, this is where people said, yeah, it was the start of the golden age of Simpsons, and I kind of agree with that, though, really, as well. And I think this does have the emotional background and the jokes were starting to really come in that. I think it was Al Jean, though, started to take over as showrunner, and you could sort of tell, yeah, that the humor was starting to become a bit more dominant in there, sorry. And I really did enjoy season 3. I think it's a really, really good season. Not too bad, though, really, but yeah, it was starting to find its block, though, really. Then next up is season 4, which is one of the contenders of probably one of the best series of the show. I felt like near the beginning it hadn't found its feet yet, but by the end of it, I really did think it actually really got going a little bit as well. And it has that Margarine the Monorail episode. Very, very good episode. Probably one of the best in the series and that. Very, very good. Very, very funny. Very, very laughable and that. And very, very sort of quotable. And you could sort of tell, yeah, it was more focused on Homer by this point as well. And it was still a very, very fun show, though, just to absolutely watch. No question about it. Then we're moving on to my favorite series of the show, which is series 5. And yeah, it has a lot of great episodes in this one. And I always go back to Bart and Stampy the Elephant and that. It always goes back to this one. And also Homer in Space as well. What a fantastic series. And probably the best series of The Simpsons ever, in my actual opinion. I know there are going to be people that disagree and say either series 4 or series 6. But yeah, I think this is probably the best series of The Simpsons totally ever, though, really, in my opinion. Just going to change my hand again just for a second. And then we're moving on to series 6. Now, series 6 does come very, very close to series 5 as probably my favorite Simpsons show. It does have the first part of Who Shot Mr. Burns. And it has a lot of quotable episodes in there and that. And I think it's still one of the best series of all time. And that it's got quite a lot in there. And I definitely recommend it. Definitely no question about it. And I think series 6 was just really solid overall, though, really, overall. Then next up is Series 7. Now, Series 7 to me, I know a lot of people say it's still part of the golden age of Simpsons, and I think it still is, though, in a way, but I kind of saw some of the downfalls, even with a couple of little parts of that particular episode, in a couple of episodes and that, where they did start to introduce certain things where they would become like a long-term thing for future episodes, but it wasn't too bad at that point, though, really. I think it was still serviceable because of the jokes and the humor and that, and still kept going in that. It also contains one of my favorite finales with Lisa going on holiday, and that I'd still enjoyed that one as well. And also it has Who Shot Mr. Burns Part 2. Really big hype on that one. So, and I remember just watching that in general, though, as well. Then we move on to Series 8, I believe. Yeah, Series 8. Some people say, yeah, it was the last of the golden era of Simpsons and that. And I gotta say, yeah, this is still a very, very good series. It had a lot of great episodes in there, and I probably enjoyed it quite a lot, though, really, if I remember rightly. And I know I can't remember too many episodes about it, but it's just the feel or the feeling behind it. And I still really enjoyed Series 8, though, really. And I think, that's where, some people say, yeah, that was the end of the golden era. But I think it lasted a little bit longer, though, personally, though, really, until this next series, which was Series 9. I felt like Series 9 was the last of the really, really good Simpsons. Yeah, I think it did take a little bit of a dive in Series 9, but it wasn't a major dive, though, really, but it was still enjoyable. Even the 200th episode, which I really enjoyed, though, as well. Even though it got a little bit silly, but I still really enjoyed it. I still think it was a very, very fun time, though, really, as well. Now, that was all the DVDs I got brand new, though, when I bought them, though, at the time. And then recently, I decided to just to get some of the other series as well. And this includes Series 10, where I do believe, yeah, some of the writing did really dip off a little bit. But I'll be honest with you, I don't think it's completely bad, though, really. I think maybe my younger self thought it was a bit bad, but I don't think it's a complete disaster. But yeah, the writing does take a bit of a nosedive a little bit. And it wasn't too bad, though, actually. There was some good stuff in there and that, and I could recommend a couple of episodes from this series, but other than that, it was just be more weak recommends, I think, in my view. But, it has some fun in there, and I disagree with some people saying, yeah, the writing was absolutely terrible. I don't think it was. It did have a couple of bad episodes, but other than that, it wasn't too bad, though, in general. And then we're moving on to Series 11 of the show. I will say, though, really, Series 11 is not too bad as a show. Probably out of the 13 I've actually got here, this is probably the weakest one. But there are still some pretty good episodes in there, but not too memorable, though, really, to be honest with you. I think there's some really, really good stuff in there, but yeah. It's more, if it's good, it's probably more forgetful good. Like, you'll probably forget about it after, like, 10 minutes or something like that. Shame, though, really. And then Season 12, yeah, this one was slightly better than Series 11, in my view. Not by much, but hey, you know what? It still has that craziness to The Simpsons and that, and I didn't think it was too bad. There was not too bad stuff in there. And also, man, yeah, there's a lot of good stuff there. And I do like the artwork. I will say this. I will say another thing about it in a minute, though, really. There is a criticism I do have with Season 11, 12, and 13 when I get to it. But yeah, this isn't too bad. And with Season 13, it's actually not. It's actually on the level of Season 12. Probably better than Season 11 and Season 10, but not on the level of the first 9 seasons and that. I will say the criticism I do have with Season 11, 12, and 13 is the way they put the discs in. Now, I know, yeah, they're doing it for more recycling space and, saving the planet sort of thing. I do get where they're coming from with it. But for me, it just doesn't work. I mean, just personally myself, though, really, at the end of the day. So there you go. So, yeah, I've watched all these 13 seasons of The Simpsons. It's going to take me a while, though, to put all these back. Jesus Christ. But, yeah, other than that, did I enjoy watching The Simpsons in general? I have, actually, to a point. Like, even if there's a lot of episodes that are kind of like forgetful a little bit later, including some of those boxes I got up there, like with Series 13, 12, 11, and 10. Maybe a little bit of Series 9 as well, but I think the first 8 seasons are very, very memorable in a way as well. And they're a bit more common online. You can get those a little bit easier. Where some of the later seasons, I would say from, say, Series 10, I mean, maybe Series 10 you can get kind of like a bit easily, but Series 11 to I've been told like maybe Series 17. It ranges. It depends though, really. And to get Series 18 and 19, they're a bit more rare than that. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But I think that's going to be very, very unlikely that I'll probably get Series 18 and 19. And the same though with Series 20, but Series 20 was only just released in Europe and that. But yeah, I had a good fun with it, and I'm going to carry on with the collection of that. With part 2, I will try and show off Series 14, 15, 16, and 17 at least, and also some of these Simpsons other DVDs as well. Anyway, thanks very much so for watching, guys. I hope you take care of yourselves. I'll speak to you soon. Peace.